And welcome to SABC News.
Afternoon, thank you.
Ishtar, what is the status of the law reform process? We know that started more than 10 years ago. And why such a long delay to decriminalise?
So the law reform process started with the South African Law Reform Commission starting an investigation. This actually started about 17 years ago. We've been pushing for the release of this report for the last decade now. This report has allegedly been handed over the Department of Justice in 2014. The contents of this report is supposed to give the recommendation for which government can either use or choose to ignore going forward with South African legislation on sex work. As to why it's taken so long, I mean, your guess is as good as mine. I think one of the things we're lacking is political will. One of the things that is not lacking is evidence. I mean, I guess we all live in a world where we hope that policymakers make evidence-based decisions, but sadly, here is an example where that is not the case.
We understand that sex workers are 18 times more likely to be targeted by perpetrators. Tell us why this heightened sense of vulnerability and how have they coped in the last decade?
I mean, a lot of it has to do with the law. Sex work is fully criminalized, both the buying and the selling of sex work in South Africa. And I think this creates an environment where violence against sex workers can happen with impunity. We're not saying that the decriminalization of sex work is the silver bullet that will fix all violence against sex workers, but it definitely is a start. And for example, I mean, we have cases, numerous cases, where police are actually the perpetrators of violence, where currently, as we speak, there's harassment of sex workers happening in Witbank and in Mpumalanga, where police are raiding homes and taking sex workers, stripping them of their clothes and making them walk naked to taxi ranks and covering them in water. This is all actions of the police, and this is kind of allowed to happen because sex workers are seen as criminals.
Ishtar, your organization recently welcomed the move by Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa's National Work Sector Plan for sex workers in the country. Now, we at SABC News covered that launch, and in his address, he did make a strong public health and human rights argument. And one got a sense that decriminalization would be speeded up. What's been the impact of that new plan on the industry, or is funding still a big glitch?
I mean, we worked in collaboration with the South African National AIDS Council on that plan. So we are very hopeful about this plan because it included the voice of sex workers and it included collaborative work within civil society. What we're waiting for now is to see how that plan is being rolled out. How is it going to be implemented? And more importantly, what impact that has for law reform, because a lot of the plan, and the plan itself does recommend the decriminalization of sex work, a lot of it hinges on law reform. So how is it that SANEC and HIV and public health organizations aim to provide services to sex workers when they're still considered a criminalized population and are still target and most vulnerable to violence?
Ishtar Lakhani is the Advocacy Task Manager at SWET, joining us from our Seapoint studios in Cape Town. Thank you for your time on the SABC News Desk. Time to take a short break. I'll be back with more news in just a few minutes.